Steal my money, take my house, put me in debt. Now it's time for me to ruin your life. My ex stole almost 90,000 euros from me, which I had saved up over 9 years. When I took her to court, I lost due to lack of evidence. At that moment, I felt destroyed and lost everything. She even sued me for emotional damages, and I had to pay 55,000 euros. I was forced to sell my house and take a big loan from the bank. I stayed with a friend who helped me find some good lawyers, and we just found an amazing one. In just one day, he helped me so much and even helped me get the information about who took money from my bank account. Something was wrong. On June 29th, a transaction happened under my name. I never made it, and I was not even in the country at that time. I was ready to get back into court when I found out that she bought my house. Well, I have a safe that I never told her about, hidden in the bathroom behind the cabinet. She ruined my life, so why not ruin hers even more? I had an accomplice buy some drugs worth about 400 euros and used a friend to hide them in the safe. Before taking her to court again, I had that same friend who hid the drugs turn her in. It took about a week for the cops to receive a mandate to search the house. They found nothing in the first 2 hours, and they wouldn't have if my friend hadn't forgotten to leave the safe cover open. Keep in mind those 400 euros worth of drugs are equal to a 5,000 euro fine and 12 years of prison. Well, I'm not done yet. Court time again. I had my lawyer get the footage from when the money from the bank was transferred, and I also had a document showing that I was not in the country at the time. We also found out the account to which the money was sent. The name on the account was that of my ex. Well, look how the tables have just turned. My lawyer also demanded payment for emotional damage, all the money that was stolen, the house, and also money equivalent to 2 times the debt I had in the bank, which is equal to about 140,000 euros. I wish all of you could have seen the look on her face when everything came crashing down on her. And on top of the 12 years from drug possession, she received an additional 25 years for theft and false testimony. Enjoy it, sucker, because you deserve it. Wife cheated, so I tricked her into publicly admitting to the affair and herpes. In college, I met the woman who I thought was the one. We dated for about 2 years and had a big wedding after a 10-month engagement. Her family was pretty well-to-do in a small southern town. We were both continuing our education, and I was also working to support us. I was pursuing a master's in engineering while she was finishing her doctorate in anthropology. Over the summer, an opportunity came up for her to make some extra money going as an aide on a religious studies trip to Jamaica. I didn't hesitate when she asked me about it. I mean, she was going to get to visit Jamaica and get paid for it. I saw no downside other than missing her being at home for 6 weeks. Little did I know at the time, but she had been having affairs with the professor, who I even considered a friend at the time. We would hang out, and I even let him drink my beer and smoke my weed. Turns out, the trip was just so they could bang all over the island for a few months. I, clueless and happy, went about the weeks while she was gone, taking extra shifts so I could match what she made in our account and surprise her. What an idiot I was, right? One of the students from the trip actually seeked me out to clue me in. I didn't believe him until I started looking for evidence on my own. I broke down and checked her texts while she was sleeping, and nothing was there. There were a few voicemails, so I decided to listen, and there it was. A message from that giant a-hole saying how exciting it was that I almost caught them. I opened up her laptop and hit the emails. After that, it was piles and piles of shit. They were making fun of me for not knowing effing in our bed and laughing about it. It was just too much, and I was so heartbroken. Still too hurt to take any action, I was lost. I had no idea what to do, so I sat on it for a couple weeks and acted as normally as I could. I felt so stupid for not seeing it before, as there were blatant red flags. For example, I noticed that our stash of homemade weed lube was going down even though we weren't having sex. It was obvious they were also using the fruits of my labor to get off more effectively. It finally all hit me. I was a goddamn joke to these assholes, and they were using the lube I made and doing it in my bed. All my sadness turned to anger, and I knew I had to hurt these 2 subhumans as badly as possible. Permanently. So while my ex-wife was, quote, studying at the library, I made a new batch of lube. I put enough weed in it for it to smell like normal, but I also added a copious amount of poison ivy from our backyard to the mixture. And after refilling the spray bottle we used for application, I waited. A few days go by and I'm working extra so that I could be out of the house more, and bam, bait taken. Finally, my plan goes into action. I sneak her phone away and delete my contact while replacing his phone number in his contact as mine. I go to bed but can't sleep because I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve. Dawn arrives and she's in the shower. I received a text. "I'm super itchy, are you okay?" the slut says. "Now, Lord, now is my time for sweet retribution." I responded, "Look, I thought it had cleared up, but I guess I had a flare-up. I'm sorry, but I've got herpes, and I guess you do now too." I heard this bitch squeak in the shower. I'm covering my mouth, damn near losing it. I went on to tell her that it was time to end things now. A new semester is about to start, and I kind of have a little crush on another TA. I wanted her mad. This is a spoiled little slut that never got told no growing up and never had to deal with rejection, let alone from a balding dude in his 50s with herpes. When she got out of the shower, it was obvious she had been crying. But I could see the anger in her eyes. I could see how uncomfortable she was while she was shaking and trying to drink her coffee. Another little nudge is what was needed. The reply she got to her humorously cringe attempts to rekindle things was a simple, "Thanks for the good times, but can you keep this a secret between us? I don't want to ruin my chances with anyone else." After that message, the bitch was seething with anger. She grabbed her keys and stormed off, all without acknowledging me. I knew where she was going. I booted up her laptop and set it to reformat, deleting her dissertation and any notes pertaining to it, erasing all of her work. I hurried after her to the college, parked a few lots over and rushed over to the balding pig's office, where I found the slut screaming at him for giving her herpes. There's a ton of people there. Professors, aides, students, other faculty. I'm absolutely dying of laughter. The bald pig is beyond mortified and flustered, and the slut is ugly crying in front of pretty much her whole department. I'm in heaven. I didn't even care that everyone there was going to think that I had herpes too. The fallout of all of this was apocalyptic for the college department. The pig lost his job due to the university's code of conduct. I got divorced the following year, and I got to keep most of the assets. I don't even care that I lost a tiny amount of money because of how well my justice mission went. The hoe never finished her doctorate and went on to be a perpetually pregnant housewife that sells Herbalife on Facebook, and the bald pig teaches high school now. It took a few years for my ploy to unfold, but boy was it glorious. I wanted my father to understand I wasn't coming. My parents divorced when I was in first grade. Not only did my dad disappear like Houdini, he stole my mother's ATM card to her personal account and drained her dry. My mother, being the saint she is, didn't even bat an eye. She still was friendly to him and never said a negative word about him. To me, my dad, albeit abandoning us, was still my hero. From first through fifth grade, I had the usual abandoned by dad stories. I would get maybe 1 or 2 visits in a year if I was lucky. At least 50 times I had packed my suitcases and waited by the front window, eagerly awaiting him to pick me up and bring me to his house. My mom, again, God bless her heart, was supportive through all of this and never said an ill word about him. Thus my dad remained my hero. When I was in 6th grade, my mother finally remarried, and my father, who only had a picture of me at 8 months old in his wallet, went ballistic. Did I mention he never paid child support? He would use his father's social security, they had the same name, to get away with it. After my mom remarried, he let it be known that I was now my stepdad's responsibility. He cut off communication with me until I graduated high school. He didn't attend my graduation or send a card. What he did do, however, was write me an email thanking God he no longer had to pay child support, even though he never did. What really broke me was his ruthless and brutal attack on my mother, attacking her weight, looks, teeth, and blaming any perceived negative traits that I had on her. For the first time, I realized what a cowardly piece of shit he was. I responded in kind. He told me I was no child of his and that I was a waste. After that, I vowed that I would hurt him, and I would hurt him bad. 10 years later, my father, not interested in my wedding or my son, reached out to me. You see, he is a diabetic, and one of his organs was failing, so he didn't have long. He's too far down on the list, and he needed someone in our family to donate. It was finally payback time. I answered his email, I met up with him, and pretended that I didn't hate his guts. I went and got tested to see if I was a match, which I was. I did the therapy and met with doctors and his therapist. We scheduled the surgery. The day of the surgery, we met at the hospital. I smiled in his face and let him know that I wouldn't be going through with the surgery. I watched the confusion line his face. I told him, I just wanted you to know that you're no father to me and you're a waste. I immediately left the hospital and drove home. My mom was pretty annoyed with me that I took it that far. My father is dying, and I will be attending the funeral out of spite. And I will let everyone know what a piece of shit he was. Good riddance. Edit 1. This really blew up. For those questioning my actions, I will give further detail. My father was semi-obsessed with my mother. His attachment to us was only in his perceived ability to get back together with my mother. In the beginning, he would call and make plans to see us, but he would not show up. My mom would have to make up excuses to comfort me. He has been married over 4 times and supports and loves his stepkids without a thought to us. Once my mother remarried, he was done with us. He kept in contact with my mother through email, but had no interest in talking to his children. I have reached out to him before. I invited him to my graduation, let him know of my marriage and that he was a grandfather. All I got back was pictures of his new wife's kiddos. I only got to know him after fake agreeing to donate. I went to one of his therapy sessions at his request. There, I heard the story about the true reason why he contacted me. I listened as he lamented about his impending death, how he was resigned to his fate. It was his new wife who reminded him of his former kids, and she thought maybe one of us would donate. He got excited because he had forgotten all about us. He had a renewed hope. Do you know how sad it is to listen to the person who is responsible for your very existence? Talk about forgetting your very existence. I was a pair of sturdy old boots that gathered dust in the back of the hall closet. It was just now that I was rediscovered and assigned to go shovel shit. It was at that point that I was adamant that I was not going to donate. Edit 2. I'm not worried about a will or being left anything. He had nothing to leave. He's the male equivalent of a gold digger. He only married women who can take care and support him as he mooches off of them. He stole thousands from my mother, and she didn't press charges because she didn't want her children's father in jail. My mother was his first wife, and he learned his lesson not to have kids of his own, but to instead move into ready-made families. His ex-wives and their children have nothing nice to say about him. Were these people justified in their revenge? Let me know in the comments.